You got the customer order, you ordered $30,000 worth of material, and now the customer wants to cancel. What's up guys? Ian Sandusky from Lakewood Machine and Tool back here again for Practical Machinist. And today on Shop Talk, we're going to be diving into that scenario you hope you never have to get into. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. Let's get into it. Before we get started here for this week's episode of Machine Shop Talk, we would like to put out a call for shop tour videos. We, with Practical Machinists, have had the pleasure of getting to go inside dozens of some of the most incredible small and large machine shops out there across North America and even some, in Europe and South America. And this is an awesome way to get your shop featured, to help show off what you're doing in your shop, show off, your story, show off your capabilities. And most importantly, guys, this is absolutely free. If you're interested in shooting one of these for us, please send an email to info@practicalmachinist.com. This does not need to be some kind of huge production. Guys, I shot my shop tour on my iPhone. You can do that as well. So if you're interested, please get in touch at info@practicalmachinist.com. Let's get into this week's episode. Okay guys, so today on Shop Talk, we're diving back into the Practical Machinist forums to cover a scenario that, as I mentioned, you really wish you never have to face. But unfortunately, it does tend to happen. We were on the Practical Machinist forums, or I was on the Practical Machinist forums, and I found a post by a guy that kind of caught my attention because it highlights a scenario that I've been in, and I'm sure many of you guys have been in before, but it was on the shop ownership and management subforum, where it's, mostly questions relating to those topics. And a guy came on and he said he had a problem. The problem was as follows. He had a new customer. So this was a customer that I think he got through a referral or something, but not a customer he had done work for before, but they came and they gave him a request for quote. He went, quoted out the job. Everything looked good. It sounded like a pretty big order. He got the purchase order from the customer and went and ordered the material for the job. This, as I say, sounded like a very big job because he said it was to the tune of, and I believe he's American, $30,000 worth of material in US dollars. So that's a lot of money. That's like 45 grand if you're talking Canadian here. But he ordered this, got the material on the floor. He didn't mention what his terms were with his supplier, but it sounds like he paid for the material already and then something bad happened. So the person who put through the purchase order, it sounded like a fairly big company because, the same person who bought the parts or gave him the purchase order asked him if they could send the engineer for the job by to his shop for a site survey. This is pretty common, especially with new customers. They want to come, they want to poke around your shop, just kind of see what your capabilities are. They want to make sure that their parts are in good hands. So he says, yeah, sure, no problem. Send the engineer by, happy to talk to him. So the engineer comes into his shop, takes one look at the material that's on the floor, and loses it, freaks out. He says, no, this work wasn't supposed to come to you. This work was supposed to go to my buddy's shop. And says, we are going to have to cancel the order. Man, I can just feel the blood draining from my face if this happened in my shop. So, needless to say, the guy who came on with this question was kind of freaking out himself a bit at this point because he's got $30,000 worth of material on the floor. And he was coming on to ask, guys, what do I do with this scenario? So right off the bat, guys, this scenario does not look good. As others pointed out, we can speculate on what the ethics are of an engineer giving work only to his buddy's shops. Right front and center, that sounds like a very questionable scenario in my head. Regardless, that's kind of besides the point because it doesn't really help this guy out right now. But this guy was kind of asking for some guidance on what to do. He said, do I just try to return the material? Do I try to get them to agree to buy the material off me and I'll let them off the hook? He did say on all his quotes that when he sends out his quote, right front and center, it says, no cancellations, no refunds. So that's something he was kind of asking about. Hey guys, I put this on my quotes. What does that mean? There was a lot of good advice given in this thread. So I'm gonna go through and just kind of pick off some of the things I agreed with and maybe some of the ones I didn't agree with so much. But first one, number one, is don't let yourself get in this scenario to begin with. This was the most common thing that was said there. I agree with it. The caveat to that is that this information is not very useful to this guy at this point. It kind of is what it is. This is, you know, closing the barn doors after the horses have bolted. But this was my thought as well. The best way to avoid these kind of scenarios and keep yourself out of these kind of problems is to have some very hard, maybe not hard, have the more difficult conversations up front. I know we do not like talking about money with our customers. I personally don't. No one loves it. We don't love to, you know, talk about, well, I want to make sure I'm getting my money. You need to make sure you pay. Like, it's not the end of business that we all like to get paid, but that's not the part of business that most of us who work in this trade like. We all like receiving money. Very few of us like negotiating terms. But up front, when it comes to a job like this, the very idea of ordering $30,000 worth of material for a job, so let's say, you know, if material is supposed to be 30%, that's almost a $100,000 job there. The thought of taking on that job and putting myself out $30,000 in my shop potentially up front just wouldn't happen. It's not something I would do. If it was in my shop, I would definitely ask for, and this is what a lot of guys said as well, the terms for that kind of job for me would probably be, if they're a new customer, even if they had filled out a credit application and I had gone and called their references, I probably for a first order wouldn't feel comfortable giving them, you know, net 30 terms. For a job like that, it would probably be 50% due at material order time for the total order of the job, not just material, and 50% due when the parts ship. So kind of a 50-50 split. But all the money coming in before those parts leave my shop. You have to remember, guys, when you take on the responsibility of paying for things for your customer before you get paid, you are offering them credit. It's really no different than a credit card that's only good for your shop that you are offering your customer. You know, unless your shop says First National Bank on the door, you are not obligated ever to give anybody credit. You are giving them your money as part of an agreement. There's no other way to look at it. That is the reality of the situation. Are you ever absolutely obligated to give a company credit? No. Does it make it look, or does not make it look good? Does it help facilitate deals? Yes. Are there some big companies that pretty much will only work with you if you offer them that credit, you know, to give them net 30 terms or net 45 terms? Yes. That said, do you ever have to do it? No, you just won't work with those companies. Sometimes that's a better thing. When it comes to this kind of scenario, you know, I personally, like I said, would make sure that I get that 50% down when that order comes in, and that 50% is a deposit. You need to make it very clear that a deposit, if you cancel, if you pull out, whatever, that money is lost. Or, you know, you're keeping that money. I am not a lawyer. You know, I don't even play one on TV. You want to make sure you go through and make sure the way you word this and, you know, have them sign whatever is legally enforceable and so on and so forth, mostly so they don't try to come after you for it. But this is what I would do, and this is what a lot of guys said as well, because if, as I said, your material cost should be about 30%, at this point, even if they cancel, you know, nothing is really just 30%. Your material you have to pay to get it there. You need to get the shipping. You need to store it. Guys, storage isn't free. You know, I'm not a free storage facility. You know, you had to quote it. You had to probably program up the part before you even start. These are all things that 50% will help cover if they decide to pull the work. Hopefully that never happens, but it's something built in to protect you. That said, you know, this is a weird business, guys. I don't know how other trades work, but I know when I pay someone to come fix my machines, I'm paying them probably the minute they walk in the shop and every minute they're here. but I'm paying for their travel time. I'm paying for their mileage. I'm paying for everything. For some reason, when companies come to get work from us, they try to get us, and this is not just unique to us, this is a machining industry thing. They will try to get you to absorb every single cost as a freebie outside of that physical part, whether that's storage, shipping, programming, whatever. You need to make sure that you build into your quotes, and so you get covered by these kind of deposits enough to cover yourself there, so that if they pull that work, you are still whole. No one wants to lose money doing work, so something to keep in mind when you're building out these quotes. Practically at this point, this is nice advice, everybody loves it. It does not help this guy at this point. He is beyond the point where that would help. He would say, great, I will do that next time. I still have $30,000 worth of material on my floor right now. For better or for worse, he's stuck in this scenario and he needs some actionable advice. So number 2, as other people had outlined in there, was see if the customer will buy the material off you, preferably with a markup to cover your shipping and your cost. It's all well and nice that this guy put in the top of his quote that this order is non-cancelable and non-refundable. As I said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm sure he's not either. And just trying to enforce that without actually having the money there to be able to hold on to as leverage or whatever it may be, he's gonna burn a lot of time and money trying to enforce this. So the next reasonable thing to do is talk to the purchasing agent. Say, hey guys, I have this material here. You told me, or the engineer told me, it's not that you guys don't want this job, it's not that you don't need these parts. You don't need these parts from me. There's another shop that is gonna do this work, so this material, it needs to go somewhere. He might as well buy it. And guys, when I quote out jobs, and as a lot of you guys do as well, when I quote out material, I don't quote out material and just leave it flat. There's work that goes into ordering it, storing it, as I said, shipping it. I mark up my material, and the general consensus I found on that thread was most people tend to mark up material about 20%. So what I would do is ask them, hey guys, I understand you need to cancel this work. Obviously it's not a fantastic scenario. I have the material. Here's what I can let it go for so we can move on. That sounds like a very nice scenario for me as well because A, someone gets to use that material. No one ends up being out. Does it cost them a little bit of money more than it would cost if they just bought it from a supplier? Probably, but at this point we have to assume that we're not working with completely irrational people. They understand if you cancel something, hopefully they realize, let's pretend they're not completely irrational. Hopefully they realize they gotta do something. And then 3, it leaves the door open for future work. You're not going after them and saying, you need to do this, you need to do this. You're giving them a scenario to get out of this with their skin. So they might come back and say, hey, listen, that job didn't work out, let's work on this. And then you can go through all those nice terms we talked about before to try to make the next job a bit better. This is kind of what I would consider the best case scenario. This guy gets out with the skin, the company gets the parts, everybody is whole. That said, if that doesn't work right off the bat, the third option is talk to more people at the company. Clearly already we're seeing here because the purchasing agent gave him a PO, the engineer says no, that wasn't supposed to go out. Clearly there's a miscommunication and disconnect happening here at this shop. Like I said, it sounds like a big shop. If they're ordering a job that has $30,000 worth of material, we gotta assume this is a big shop. I would personally go with that first option of trying to just talk to the purchasing agent and get that sorted out. I would probably go and try to talk to more people at that shop because clearly somebody doesn't know what's happening here. Talking about the ethics involved with an engineer farming out work to his buddy's shop, I personally don't like getting involved in politics at my own shop, let alone the politics at other people's shops. But if it's a scenario where I'm gonna lose out on money, it might be worth trying to talk somebody else there and saying, hey, listen, this is the whole scenario that just happened. Maybe you call the CEO, maybe you call a manager, maybe you call that engineering guy's manager and say, hey, listen guys, I'm just trying to understand what happened here. Here is exactly what I was told. Can you get back to me on that? I don't like it because now you're wading into he said, she said. Now you're trying to, essentially go over someone's head and stuff. But at the end of the day, guys, if someone's trying to pull one over on you for that much money, it's worth having some conversations. Maybe this guy's gonna get fired. Maybe, it's gonna cause a big firestorm over there. Doesn't really matter. The reason I say I don't like this option is because I feel like it's just gonna waste time. But if the option is wasting some time and getting your money out, it's not really a waste of time. It's something I would consider. The fourth option and the final option, as I usually have in these scenarios, is going to court and suing the guy. You know, some guys in the forums love to jump to this as a first off thing. Yeah, you know, he doesn't want to pay you. Jump on there, get your lawyer on him. Oh, lawyers love chasing these guys. Yes, lawyers love chasing these guys because they make a ton of money from you on doing this work. Legal is always an option. Legal is always an option, guys. It's a way to get paid. It should be your last option to try to get paid because A, if you sue a company, first off, you're never doing work for them again. Again, maybe you don't want to, but that door's closed. Anybody who talks to people who work at that shop probably are not gonna wanna work with you because you're litigious. Even if you were right, people are probably on that end only gonna hear that side of the story. I mean, it's worth it in some scenarios, guys. For 30 grand, you know, I'm not gonna let that slide. So if I had to, I'd probably do it. But you have to remember that when you go the court route, there's a lot more to it than just, I got my money and now I can move on with my life. It's gonna take time. If your judgment was for 30 grand, you know, you could be paying 10, 12 in lawyers, and then you actually have to try to get paid. Just so you know, guys, if you get a judgment awarded to you, so if I sue them for the 30 grand, the judge says, you know what, you're right, Company B, you owe Company A 30 grand. The court does not do much to get me that money. I need to still physically manage to get that money. So I'm kind of back where I started, but now the court is going to enforce it, however that may work. I only say this, guys, and it's not that I don't have faith in the courts, but I know companies that this has happened to, and 2-3 years later, if they're owed 100 grand, they may have gotten 20, and they're still waiting and still waiting. It's always an option. I just want to make sure you guys don't always look for it first because it's a nuclear option and you're probably going to get burned yourself when you drop it. Something to think about. In any case, guys, down in the comments below, I'd like to know what kind of advice you would give to someone in this scenario. You know, if someone has someone cancel an order where they're on the hook for material, what would you do in that scenario? What is a strategy that has worked at your shop or at a place that you've worked when this kind of thing has come up? And as always, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. You take care.